What is up, everyone? We are back. First college hoop show of the season, a little later than we usually debut them. But we're doing the Saturday shows. There's no college football this Saturday. There's no NFL this Saturday, which is the big one for the DK contest. We've got big qualifier today. We're going to have a bunch basically every Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday moving forward. I was lucky enough to get a seat last Saturday, Pip, when I was moving. But yeah, we have a different guest today. Gavin is out in Arizona on a golf trip. So had to pull in a guy that I've been talking to a lot lately. He is in our Discord, Pipitone. If you've seen or if you played any college basketball DFS, you've definitely seen his name, especially in the 222. And if you play any winner take alls, I'm sure you've seen him as well. What's going on, man?
Good. Excited. Glad that thanks for having me today. Glad that the other sports are done and we can be kind of full bore here through March. And yeah, glad to get more eyes on college basketball and hopefully contests and people's interest grows over time here. So looking forward to being able to talk through some plays today.
Yeah, it's a good slate of games overall today, just, throughout the day. The best games are in that afternoon slate. We've got a couple of really, really good ones this afternoon. Houston at Texas Tech, Illinois, Purdue. A bunch of these games got moved because of the big storm. Hopefully everyone stays safe. We're just going to go through the 10-game main slate here, Pip. We'll go through each game. And I'm going to share our projections up on the screen. I don't usually do this, but since it's the first show, just kind of give a look at what we have on the site for each game. A lot of work goes into these projections every day. I think by far the most work of anyone else in the industry. If you want to join us, go ahead to runpuresports.com. Use code Steve15 for 15% off your first payment. We have a great group in there. I'm sure Pip can speak to that throughout the show. A great Discord. A lot of really, really good players in there. But let's go ahead and get started because we got 10 games today. We're going to go in order that DraftKings has, and we got 6 locks right at that noon Eastern window here, Pip. The first one they added to the slate late because it got moved. Vandy at Mississippi State. Vandy's 15th at KenPom. Mississippi State, kind of a tough year, down to 85th at KenPom, Pip. He's got at Vandy 84.75. Should be decent pace to this game. Good total. What do you think overall DFS-wise?
Yeah, I think that this game is kind of like a microcosm of like a lot of the other games in the slate where we have really good totals, but we just have like these insane rotations. So in terms of like picking guys for like a main slate a main team or GPP, I think they're kind of two different things with this game. On a main team, I can't really justify getting anybody. As Steve probably knows, I'm always trash talking Tyler Tanner as a play just because I don't think
lottery pick Tyler Tanner.
Yeah. I just don't think he's a 9.1K player. I have him I know RPS. I have my own projections, so I'm going to reference those just to like provide more light of where my opinion's coming from. RPS obviously does have great projections, but being here, I'm going to try to kind of explain where my stuff's at. I'm around like 34 on Tyler Tanner, which again on today's slate, like we'll get in other plays later, like Swain and Boozer. I like them a lot more than a Tyler Tanner. But in a GPP, like if you're MMEing, I mean, you probably want a little bit of Tanner. Duke Miles is probably the best play on this team. I've got him around like 31 at 7.3K, which is really solid. Great steals upside. I mean, he could have like 5 steals here by the end of the day. And if that's the case, I'll be extremely upset because I won't have him on main. But yeah, and then the other 3 plays I'd note here are Jalen Washington, McLaughlin, and Okereke. I think Washington's probably the best of the 3 and probably comes with the lowest ownership of the 3. But if you want to game stack it, I don't mind it. But I think that if I were to play Tanner or were to play Miles in an MME, I'd probably want one of McLaughlin or Okereke or Washington, just kind of banking on them maybe scoring like 95. But no Mississippi State for me, kind of in any format. Just disgusting stuff going on there. So
yeah, Mississippi State outside of Josh Hubbard, when I was doing minutes yesterday, really tough, right? They've lost 4 conference games in a row. Kind of seems like they're searching for answers. These aren't really the teams that I want to be buying on because we do see coaches kind of change things up, especially during conference play. Like they've lost 4 games in a row here. It's a big opportunity at home. Wouldn't be surprised to see different starters outside of Hubbard and Epps. I just have no confidence in the Mississippi State guys other than a Josh Hubbard. I'm with you on Vandy. I think that they have the best plays here by far. Duke Miles is cheap at 7,300. I think he's the best play, him and Tanner. If you're playing multiple lineups, I think you got to get some of these guys. I mean, Tanner and Miles throughout the season, Pip, have each broken the slate
Oh, I know.
times to our dismay. But I think if you're playing multiple lineups for the 84 team total here, I think that they're squarely in play. McLaughlin and Washington are going to kind of split time. Washington comes off the bench, so if you use him, just know that when you look at starters, he is a guy that does come off the bench here. All right, let's go to game number 2. We've got Wake Forest at Duke. This is one of the wider spreads of the slate. Wake Forest 70th at Ken Pom. Duke up at 3rd at Ken Pom. Ken Pom's got an 84-66 Duke here, Pip, so a lower team total for Wake. I feel like their pricing has been pretty favorable lately, but tough spot for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the pricing's favorable until they're in pace-up spot after pace-up spot, and now you've got like a 65 team total at Cameron Indoor with 10.1K Juke Harris. Like, I'm not pumped about playing anybody against Duke. I'm not pumped about playing anyone at Duke, and I'm definitely not pumped about it being a Wake Forest team I don't think has many good basketball players on it. The only one I'm like slightly interested on the Wake Forest side is probably Nate Kelmise. I kind of have trouble with him because earlier in the year his props were like 7.5 for points, and then like this last 3 weeks he's probably been around like 15.5, 14.5, and today he's at 10.5. So
yeah, he went on a tear and had the bad game last time out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just awful. And I had him on a slate, of course. But if you think that he is the guy that's going to shoot 16 times at 5.8K, I mean, he can get there 100%. I'm not pumped about doing it at Duke generally.
I kind of like Colvin at 6K.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're playing Colvin, you're kind of playing there with the idea that hopefully he can just bang like 5 threes and get like 3 steals, which for Miles Colvin is like definitely in the range of possibilities. But again, it's like, I think every time I think about one of these plays and think about potentially bumping them, like, well, they are at Duke with a 66 total, you know,
on a 10-game slate. I think these Wake guys, Pip, I would be more comfortable if it was a smaller slate and you kind of get to IKB a play or two. But on a 10-gamer, you're going to need real scores, and I just don't really like the Wake guys. I think Kelmise is going to come in owned too, so I think he's an interesting fade. Let's talk about the Duke guys. Start with Boozer, and then we've got 2 plays in the 3K range that have not been this cheap the whole season. I think we have to talk about them too.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a tough time with the Duke guys. Kind of another theme of this slate is kind of similar with the Duke tertiary pieces of like, I'd be putting in a lot more work to figure out what their minutes are really going to be if there weren't a lot of other good plays. But as you were saying, with 10 games, like, you have to be really sure they're a good play. So I would say like the secondary Duke guys are GPP only. I don't think I can justify getting them on a main. I think that the projections here are pretty spot on to what I'm seeing. Maybe like a tick or 2 higher on Boozer and Foster than I am. Now, Cam Boozer, I think, is stone locked today. One of the props I have, and I can talk about, I'll put them all together at the end. One of the props I have is I do like Isaiah Evans over points here. Was a bit surprised when I opened Duke to see an 84 total. I think that the ACC games recently, they've been like 90 every time. So I'm kind of getting a bit of cold feet about that. And then lastly, the other one I'm pretty interested in is Ngangba. It's kind of the cheapest we've seen him, coming off like a floor minutes game, which is admittedly a bit scary, but easily can be 1 FP fantasy point per minute here. The hardest part I'm having about figuring out his projection is I'm a lot lower on his rebounds. I think the market is at 6.5. I'm at 5, and I'm pretty confident in what I projected on like a team-wide basis. So I'm kind of inclined to bet the under, but this is somewhere that might be a blind spot for me. But if you think that the props are right, I'd be locking and loading Ngangba in a lot of lineups here.
Yeah, Wake's big weakness is inside the 304th in defensive 2-point percentage, and their rebounding rates are really rough for a Power 5 school. So big boost to Boozer and Ngangba here. Really like Cam Boozer. Like you said, we'll be talking about plenty of value plays on this slate. I think Boozer and Foster, kind of depending on how you play, like, we've got Barrick in the chat here. I'm sure anytime there's a guy under 4K that's a reasonable play, Barrick's going to have him in his lineup. Their stars and scrubs. I tend to play more that way too, at least when it makes sense. I mean, at least it's not, we're grasping for a guy who's 3.7x here. I mean, these guys have real projections. So if you like the studs, like if you want to play a Boozer plus Caleb Wilson, these are the guys that you're going to have to play. And I think in like the flagship or the $33, I think that they're at least interesting. At this point in the season, Pip, we just don't get too many plays under 4K that project for 4.5x. So
Yeah.
I'm with you that the context of the slate, there are better, cheaper, not cheaper plays, but better, reasonably cheap plays. But I think Boozer and Foster are definitely in play here. All right, let's go to game number 3, Clemson at Georgia Tech. Clemson on yet another slate. Very frustrating team, good team. And they get a really nice matchup here, Pip. They're 29th at Ken Pom. Georgia Tech is 127th. Ken Pom's got a Clemson 76-67. So low team total here for Georgia Tech at home. They get Mosilla back here, which makes things even tougher for them. But I think it's the Clemson guys that we're going to be interested in here. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with GT and just run through them really quickly. I would not have any Georgia Tech in pretty much any format here. I mean, as we know, Clemson wants to just get you in the half court and destroy you that way. And I just don't think that Georgia Tech's a sound enough team to kind of put up with that style. Now, if there was one Georgia Tech guy I wanted to play, I'd probably say Mosilla. Now we don't know the minutes at all. Like 14 is probably about right. If there was a report that said he's a full go and we knew he was getting 30 minutes, he's reasonably a 1 fantasy point per minute guy.
Yep.
And we'd be locking and loading him even in a bad spot because he can get rebounds. It's just like a huge question mark. That obviously is someone that just plays one lineup, not willing to take a chance on. Now, on the Clemson side, a lot of good plays here. I think Godfrey's probably going to be highest owned player on the slate, I'd say, or close to it. Good play. I do think he's a bit overprojected here. If I was playing MME, like maxing out teams, I'd probably be underweight relative to the field. And I think with that, I'd be a little bit overweight Welling. I just think that anytime, I mean, Welling was 6.1K on the last slate, I want to say, Steve, and he was like 80% owned.
Yep.
So I think that playing him isn't the craziest thing. My play of the day today, a bit earlier, is Dylan Hunter. I think 5.1K. I'm a little bit over the RPS projection here. I just think he's a really sound play. I think when you're the 4.5K to 5.5K today is really, really strong. And especially in a 76 total, what I like about Dylan Hunter here is that he has so many ways to get there. He could easily put up 15 real points. He can get 5 rebounds. He can get 5 assists. Obviously, no guarantees here, but I think there's a lot of ways he can get there in a 76 total in probably the best role on the team. So I'm kind of locking and loading him today, I think.
Yeah, good pace-up spot for Clemson here. Georgia Tech up to 44th in tempo, playing faster. I'm with you on the Georgia Tech guys. It's just tough with Silla back. Like, they put Jaden Mustaf back in the starting lineup, but he isn't cheap anymore, and the minutes are really tough. Like, this is another team where when you're going through doing minutes for the slate, there are some teams where it's like, you know exactly what they're going to do game to game. This is a super volatile team with a low total, so I'm with you. I'm going to pass on Georgia Tech at these price tags. Clemson, again, is cheap, but what's kind of encouraging for me, Pip, is they've condensed this rotation in conference play. You know, we saw Clemson early on in the season where everyone was playing 18 to 24, 25, and we were kind of guessing, from game to game. Now in conference, they've really condensed it around Welling, Godfrey, Hunter, and Porter, with those ancillary guys kind of falling off. There were slates where we were considering Ace Buckner and Buda Johnson. Not anymore.
Thank God.
These guys kind of being locked into 28 to 34 minutes has some great plays. I like Godfrey and Hunter the most. Godfrey does have some foul risk that Hunter doesn't have, so I think that that's an interesting point as well. I think Hunter is way safer than Godfrey just because of Godfrey's propensity to get into early foul trouble from time to time that just doesn't really happen with Hunter. So it's Godfrey and Hunter for me. I'm not as into Porter as the projection is. I'd rather just find the 300 or the 700 to get up from Porter to those two. But if you're playing a bunch of lineups, I think these top 4 from Clemson, you just kind of mix and match. Any last thoughts there?
Yeah, like three more quick things. I do think like Justin Porter, you're probably mixing in GPP. I mean, he's 4.8K, could
Yeah.
put up like 20 real in a good spot. Probably not a main play, but definitely wouldn't fault you for running him in MME. I do like the over. Let me look. What was it for Welling? I think I like over 6.5 boards for Welling here. I'm at 7.4. I think it's a good spot. I mean, this isn't the best analysis, but I think there's going to be a lot of misses here from Georgia Tech. They kind of just like chuck it. And I think another reason I kind of am on the Clemson guys, and I think a good reason to be overweight them today in GPPs is that I think I have them projected for like the third most amount of steals on a team level at like 7.4. So it's like if you get 10 steals, 11 steals as a team here, these guys are probably crushing because that's going to really take you over the top fantasy points wise.
Yeah, we saw that. I can't remember which slate it was this week, where steals were kind of the name. Oh, it was the Providence Marquette game.
Mm-hmm.
Teams that are able to get those ceiling steals games can really turn a DFS slate. I'm stalling because I'm putting in that Carter Welling rebound bet.
Yeah, I can recap all these at the end too. I've got like
Yeah,
8 written down for everybody. So
we work with Matt Gajeski on player prop stuff. He has Carter Welling at 8.24. That's probably hot, but still, always love to see that when we're already leaning that way.
Yeah, and I think Welling also like has a little bit more minutes upside than people think. I don't know, just from sweating him the past few, I feel like we've locked him on like the last 3 slates.
Yeah.
He always plays like 12 first half minutes and then like the whole second half. So I'm just waiting for the day where Brunell just jams him for 34 minutes and he just mows.
Yeah, I mean, because that's definitely in the range of outcomes, especially if Georgia Tech pushes them here on the road.
100%.
Let's go to one of the better games on the slate, UNC at Virginia. Really good game, I think. Carolina 30-30 KenPom. Virginia all the way up to 13th. KenPom's got this Virginia 80-71. I think that's a bit wide, personally. The market agrees. I think this is down to 6.5, 6. Pip, we saw Carolina struggle on that West Coast trip, which happens a lot. You go out to Stanford, you go to Cal, you don't play well, but they came back home and throttled Notre Dame. What do you think about this game overall?
Yeah, a lot of thoughts here. This is I don't know about you, Steve, but when I opened this up and saw the 71 team total for UNC, I was a bit shell shocked. Did you kind of feel like that just seemed crazy low? Not that I think it's wrong, but just seems low.
It does seem low. I actually debated a team total over there, but Virginia in conference defensively has been really good. They're up to third in effective field goal percentage nationally.
Oh wow, okay.
Which surprised me. I mean, they're 12th in 3-point percentage defense, 5th in 2-point percentage defense. They're here at home in Charlottesville. This is one of the bets where I'm kind of with you. When I opened it, I was like, oh shit, we're going to be on a UNC team total over here, but kind of shied away once I dug in a bit further.
Yeah, and
it's kind of reflective in the projections here too.
100%. And I think that was kind of when I was going through, like looking at my projections and kind of putting things through. That's exactly what I thought. Like, I think that the Wilson and Vasar projections here are right on. I think the UNC guys are all right on. So with that being said, probably not getting to much of them I wouldn't be getting to much of any of them in any format. The best projection here is probably Seth Trimble. I do have his points as under. I think the market's 12.5. I'm like 11.7. So I don't think that's a terrible play. The one I was going to ask you about, Steve, because I didn't get a chance to look at the rotations when you were doing minutes, is Luka Bogovac. I know we were kind of like a lot of discourse about him early in the season being actually good at the sport. He's 3.8K. It's not the best total, but he does get rebounds and assists. So like at that price, there's like a feasible path for him to get there. So I'm kind of curious how you think about him versus the Duke guys.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to find that fifth guy that's going to actually play some defense. We've seen them in the last couple games start Derek Dixon. He's played well, but last game, like they started, who did they start? Jaden Young or something. They started.
Oh yeah.
Jonathan Powell. I think that they're just kind of looking for that fifth piece. Like their other four are locked, or at least I'll call it 3.5. Like you got Wilson, Vasar, Trimble are not coming off the court much. I think Derek Dixon has kind of played his way into that starting role. So I think that fifth spot is a bit flimsy. Not super confident in that 22 minutes here. I think that's going to be kind of hot hand with him, Powell, and Young. I
Okay.
I think I might be a bit light on Seth Trimble minutes. If this was a better spot, man, like 5.5K Seth Trimble, in a game where they're going to get pushed by Virginia, I could see him at 34, 35. I think if they were playing Wake or Georgia Tech at that price, I would be super interested. So I think if you're playing a bunch of lineups, I do like Seth Trimble more than the projection does, just because I think that there is some minutes upside to be tapped in there.
Yeah, that probably takes me off the prop itself just because there's slim margin. If you probably do bump his minutes up to like 34,
Yeah,
probably right at about 12 and a half. UVA side is very interesting here.
yeah. The price.
78 team total, I think. Pretty high, pretty high. And it's a home game, kind of like that. I think what's also worth noting is RotoWire has ridiculous projections on all these guys. So I do think we're going to see a lot of ownership potentially on the UVA side. Now, the Malik Thomas over 13 and a half is one of my favorite plays props wise today. I'm
Yeah.
also a huge Malik Thomas fan, and I feel like my model has been on him like ever since Jakari White went out. And I think it's kind of one of those things where the coach didn't like him and he just kept playing more and more and better and better. And now Ryan Odom has no choice but to kind of jam him for like 30 minutes a game. Obviously you can't play him in DFS, but I have him like 16 for a 13 and a half prop. The two big questions here I think you need to answer are Grunlow and Dallin Hall.
Yeah.
I'm probably like a point higher on both of them. They're both definitely playable. I think they're both different questions of how you think they can get there. Like Grunlow, I think you need to be pretty certain he can get 2+ blocks here to play him because he only is going to get points and rebounds. So if he gets like 9 and 8, say, you're going to need a block or like to 3 blocks to get there, which is possible. I don't know. Wilson and Vasar are not the easiest front court to go up against. So I'm lukewarm on him, maybe about like 25% in MME, something like that. UVA defense, one of those. Yeah, probably.
He was stopping by in the chat on his golf trip. Old Gavin James 40.
The burner account.
Yeah.
And Dallin Hall, as you hear, 30 minutes and 78 total at 4,500, can get rebound. It's kind of similar to the Dylan Hunter thing where it's like 78 total. He can score, not as good of a scorer as Dylan Hunter, but he can rack up peripherals, which is kind of the floor you need to be able to get there. So I wouldn't fault you for playing Dallin Hall. And I know Jakari White, 3.1K. I don't know, Steve. If he ever gets up to 20 minutes here, he's going to absolutely destroy, and someone's going to have double stud and just
I want to see it first. This is a deep team, man. And Odom has shown that he's going to use everyone. Mallory has broken out kind of since White went down. I'm kind of with Gavin here, not outright, but if I was betting this game, I think it would be with taking the points with Carolina. Going back to DFS, I think Grunlow's going to be really popular here, which is kind of scary given the way that he scores. Like you were saying, he's not a usage guy. He's going to clean up rebounds and have putbacks. He'll take a 3 or 2. The minutes kind of scare me, although, Carolina was getting ripped defensively out west. I don't think that that's their true level of talent defensively. I do think that they're a better defensive team than they've showed. And I think Grunlow has some serious foul risk here. I know that we've talked about this some, but Caleb Wilson draws a ton of fouls. Vasar draws a ton of fouls. Grunlow doesn't give me a warm and fuzzy as a guy that I want to play into massive chalk. Any thoughts there? And then let's wrap this game up.
Yeah, especially to your point is massive chalk. This is a slate with a ridiculous amount of 4.5K to 5.5K options. So it's to play the one that might be the highest owned with the most amount of options around him just doesn't seem like the best play. But obviously, if you play him, it's not the worst thing. I guess we'll see what happens when the cards flip. But also Gavin knows a lot more about college basketball than I do, admittedly. And when someone like that is saying that he thinks he should win outright, that makes me even a bit more weary on the UVA guys because say they score 70 instead of 78. If you put these projections through 70 total, you're going to get none of these guys. So
right.
There's a chance that this whole team could completely fail at ownership. So again, not bad plays, kind of ownership sensitive in my mind. I would say that my favorite of them I'd probably rank it Dallin Hall, then like a little step down to Grunlow, and then a decent step down to Mallory. But if Mallory's going to be the lowest owned of them by a lot, I'd prefer Mallory because I think he's the best real life basketball player.
I agree with that. I think Mallory over Grunlow is a really interesting play. Like, they're going to play basically the same minutes. Mallory's just going to be the sixth man. I think Derek Dixon's play is playable if you're playing a bunch of lineups. I don't think he's as good of a play as he was the other night when we had less games and less cheap guys to choose from. But I'm just kind of a buyer on Dixon's game in general. And he's, we've got him at 26 minutes. He's played 28 and 29 the last two games. So pretty conservative here. And he's still 4.1x. I think the best play in the whole game is the prop that you gave out. I just bet that the Malik Thomas points over. All right, let's go to game number 5. Maryland at Sparty. Wider spread here because the Terps are struggling ever since Pharrell Payne went down again. Maryland down to 114th at Ken Pom. Michigan State is up at 9th. Ken Pom's got this 79-59 Sparty. I assume you're not on any Maryland guys here with the 59 team total. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, 59 is crazy. Like, that's implying that you're like one standard deviation away from like a 55 ball here. So pretty disgusting. I don't know, maybe I don't know what the max you can put into the flagship is today, but if say it's 100 lineups, maybe like 3 or 4 Darius Adams and like 2 Solo Washington. I mean, Solo Washington can maybe get there off like rebounds as long as he doesn't foul. I mean, just watching whatever game just happened where Diggy Coy went insane. Solo Washington is very involved, very easily could be a 1 fantasy point per minute guy in like a 35-minute role. It's just like at Michigan State, it's just never going to be the play. I think I'm at 29 on him and about 19 on Darius Adams. So not terrible plays. Again, it's just like against Michigan State, nothing too exciting.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Adams is kind of a scary play that projects pretty well. I just don't see much ceiling, right? Like, if it goes well for him, I think he gets to like, 20, 22.
Yeah.
I don't see a ton of ceiling there on the road, and I can see a lot of ways that it goes bad. Like, Sparty could just shit can them here, and then we see more of the bench. I think the Terps guys are actual bad plays here, and I hope that Darius Adams flips over his chalk. Let's talk about Sparty here. Jackson Kohler is the cheapest we've seen him in a while. Fears always projects decently, but is higher owned than both me and you think that he should be. I think Kohler's the best play in the game by a pretty wide margin here. What do you think?
Yeah, before I get into Michigan State, one thing I did want to say on Maryland is something just be cognizant on this slate. There's a lot of teams like this, kind of as I said, just these mega rotation teams with coaches that are really volatile. Like, if you're playing a Darius Adams, you have to reasonably believe that Maryland can keep it somewhat close and cover, not just because of the game script, but also because these coaches that want to keep switching stuff up are just going to cycle guys out.
Especially teams that are losing and struggling.
Yeah. And I think that another team like that was Mississippi State, where it's like you can play Mississippi State starters if you think that they are actually going to do well against Vandy. I just don't think they're going to do well against Vandy.
Maryland's now 1-7 in conference. So
yeah. Exactly. Like, these coaches, their jobs are on the line. So you just have to be really, really thoughtful about how you're constructing rosters that way. Now, on Michigan State, obviously, Kohler, good play. I'm at 31.3. The one that I think is like a phenomenal play, I probably can't get there in a main just because I'm playing Boozer, is Jeremy Fears. I mean, I've got him at 32. I would say I'm kind of rarely higher than you guys on players. And I'm definitely higher on Jeremy Fears today. And I'm kind of a known Jeremy Fears hater. But I just think he can rack up like 20 and 10 here pretty easily with a few steals. They're not going to turn him over. He probably should just be in complete control here. Now, 7.8K is steep, but I do like him. And then I think the tertiary Cooper and Carr are playable. You're obviously only playing Cooper probably in a non-Kohler build. And I do kind of like the idea of Cohen Carr with Jeremy Fears if you do like Michigan State here. Because again, I mean, I think they're a 79 total. If you think they score 90 here, I find it hard to believe Jeremy Fears and Cohen Carr don't destroy, probably playing in a lot of transition. And that's exactly where Cohen Carr will destroy you. So
yeah, I agree with that. I think Carr's a good play if you're playing a bunch of lineups. Fears, I'm with you. I haven't played much from him this year, but this is a good spot. The only issue I have with Sparty guys is early big lead equals more bench with Izzo always.
Yeah.
So, like I was, I was pretty safe with the minutes here. If Maryland keeps this close, we could see 32, 33 minutes for Fears, and then he's just a smash play. If they're up 25 at halftime, the issue with Fears is that's when the 26, 27 minutes kind of creep in. So that would be my only thing with the Sparty guys. But yeah, I think Fears and Kohler are awesome plays. I actually like them more than the projections do here too.
Yeah.
So it's probably those two for me. And then some Carr, some Cooper if I'm playing a bunch of lineups, and probably off of Maryland entirely. Like if Darius Adams with a 50-18 total beats me on a 10-game slate, I'm okay with that. Like I think you would probably agree that like if you're going down that low, I would rather just go down further to the Duke guys, get the extra 1,000 with the 80 something team total, and hope that they have one of the 28 minute games instead of 22. So
for sure. And I think just kind of closing the loop on that, like if I'm playing Darius Adams, you're playing like Fears and Kohler together. Like you're probably playing all three because you're basically banking on Maryland's keeping it close and the pace is faster than like Ken Pom thinks or the market thinks it's going to be. And like I wouldn't blame you for playing that, but again, if you believe the tempo is there, 7.8K Fears and 7.5K Kohler and 4.4K Darius Adams is definitely lower than the skill set. But I totally agree with you. Like you'll play Michigan State guys and you'll be at the under 8 media timeout in the second half and they're up 20 and Cam Ward's at the table for Jackson Kohler. And you're like, why are we doing this?
Yep.
But it's understandable. Give your guys rest.
Yep. All right, let's go to the back half of the slate. AP's Nebraska Cornhuskers. What are they, 17-0 now? 19-0.
Somehow.
19-0, ranked 12th at Ken Pom. Tricky spot here today, Pip, I think, at the barn at Minnesota, who's 81st Ken Pom. Ken Pom's got it 73-65. Going to be a slower game here because it is Minnesota. And I know that Gav in the chat is going to mention that Nebraska is at Michigan on Tuesday night. Which is going to be the biggest game that they've had maybe ever. So, the situational spot guys are going to be pushing this number down at open 7. I think it's down to 5.5 or so. Tricky spot here for Nebraska. What do you think overall?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I have such an aversion to these teams like Nebraska that just sun run their way through at 17-0. So I feel like I'm kind of rooting against them here. On the DFS side, I feel like the total's a lot worse than the ownership's going to reflect. Like I think Rink Mast is kind of some sticker shock here. Worth noting, is it Frager?
Frager, yeah.
Frager. No Frager here is like pretty big news, I think. Now Mast, I don't know. I got him at like 28.1 at 6.8K. It's not terrible. He can score 32 here and get you there, but like we haven't got there yet. But if you're comparing Rink Mast against KJ Lewis, I'm probably just playing KJ Lewis every single time. Burke will probably be rightful chalk. Again, kind of another one of those like 4.8K guys who can score, rebound, get some assists, and get steals. So I'm kind of more inclined to play.
I was just going to say Burke's only 400 more than Darius Adams,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that Darius Adams, the hard sell is that you're trying to play a scoring reliant player in terms of how they produce fantasy points in a terrible team total. Right. And this is a bad team total for Nebraska relative to what they're normally at. But I'm willing to play Burke into chalk at that because of the ways that he can get there corresponds decently with the game environment. So I'm probably going to be playing Burke on main. I think he's a good play. I'm getting about like 54% in my top 50 optimals. Yeah. Definitely a good play. Other than that, I mean, I'm not getting much Rink Mast. All these guys are kind of just priced up. Kind of another one of those stories of they scored a lot of points recently and the rotation's condensing. So DraftKings just boosts them up. And then on the Minnesota side, to just tie it all together, same thing. They all play so many minutes that when they get one high scoring game, the DK algorithm just juices them up. I think the only guy here I'd consider playing is Cade Tyson, just because he's, I don't know, 8.9K at someone that can play 40 minutes and reasonably get like 0.9 FPPM isn't the worst thing in the world, but I'm not pumped about it in a 65 total against Nebraska. But if you think, like Gavin thinks, that maybe Minnesota has a chance of covering or even winning outright here at home, I'm not too against it.
Yeah, I mean, if the Gophers win this game, it's because Cade Tyson has 40 plus DK, right?
Yeah.
I think he's by far the only play there. You're seeing the minutes here. Cluster injuries for Minnesota has kind of forced them into playing their starters max minutes, which would be good if they were priced correctly, but they're just priced too high outside of Cade Tyson. I agree there. Yeah, it's Mast and Burke here with the Frager injury. People might be scared off a bit by the minutes box scores for Mast. He's just not going to play in their blowouts. For people who don't know, he missed all of last season. So anytime that they can get him minutes rest, they're just going to. So there's also that risk with playing Mast is if they just blow the doors off of the Gophers here, which totally in the range of outcomes, you could see like a 24-minute Mast instead of a 34. Now, I think the game's going to be close. Vegas does too, which is why we have the minutes projection where it is. Like if this game is a 2 or 3 possession game, Pip, then we're seeing 32, 33, 34 minutes for Mast. So I think I like him a bit more than you do. I'm a bit worried just that the usage isn't what it was before the injury. The emergence of Price, Sanford is just taking a lot of shots away from him. Hoiberg's played well. Jamarcus Lawrence, has games where he takes a ton of shots. I think he did actually recently. Let me pull that up. Jamarcus Lawrence, yeah. I mean, he
did have a decent game recently.
7 to 13 shot, yeah. So I'm with you. I think Burke is the best play here. I think Mast is going to be popular. No issues with him. But it's basically only those two and Cade Tyson here. Any last thoughts on this one?
No, just I don't know. Talking through the game, I don't think either of these teams want to pace up. Would you say it's like I just feel like this might just be a half-court slog, which I don't know too much about like the matchup for Mast in terms of how Minnesota likes to guard the post, but
yeah,
I think he actually might be better in a pace down spot. Now, I probably won't be playing on a main, but again, GPP, like he's not an awful play. He's probably a play that if he does really well, I'm going to be really upset with myself in the Discord. But
yeah, so the tempo is definitely slow. Minnesota's 352nd in tempo, and their defensive average possession length is 359th. Nebraska's 211th in tempo, but their average defensive possession length is 342nd. So you've got two teams in the bottom 20 of defensive average possession length here. Nebraska is going to force Minnesota into shooting a ton of threes. That's what Nebraska does. So 51.3% of Nebraska's shots are threes. That's 11th in the country. And 49.3% of their opponent's shots are threes. That is 358th. So top 10. It's a variance game with Nebraska that's going to bite them at some point. Is Minnesota the team that's going to hit a bunch of threes? Probably not. They're 228th in three-point percentage. So just kind of a weird game overall, I think, but just a scary one if you're AP or Snyder, our resident corn guys. Yeah. All right, let's go to the Big East. Villanova at UConn. Villanova 26th at KenPom. UConn 11th. He's got it. UConn 72-63. This line, Pip, has raced out to 11.5 at some places. Pretty big number to lay against Nova, who's played well of late. But again, UConn 8-0 in conference. They haven't really – I don't think they've looked great since like the Xavier game a couple weeks ago. I mean, that game was on December 31st. I mean, in January, they squeaked by Marquette. Providence took them to OT. They barely beat DePaul. They barely beat Seton Hall and Georgetown. I would be nervous laying the 11.5, 12 with UConn here, although I do think that they're the far superior team. Any thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, I recommend everybody watching this to read Gavin's thread on it on Twitter. I thought he did a really good job of kind of laying it out of like to lay 11.5 here for UConn. You're basically just banking on really good shooting splits between the two teams, between UConn and Nova. And like, that's just not something I'm too interested in now. If there was a team you were going to bet on half-court production, UConn is probably top 3 in the country to do it with.
Right.
So that's kind of my general game thoughts.
projects for 62 possessions. It's the lowest possessions of any game that UConn's got projected the rest of the way home.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Is like when I was building out projections for this slate. I mean, 72 team total in Hartford. That has to be the lowest UConn team total in a home game in I don't even know how long. That's insane.
Yeah, Villanova bottom 10 in pace, good defensive team, decent at rebound. I mean, it's going to be tough, right?
Yeah,
to cover the 12. I think that to win that, you just need this is a complete collapse from Nova on the shooting side. UConn hasn't really run away from teams. I don't know. I mean, I'm actually considering betting Nova plus 11.5 just out of respect for how wide this line is compared to how slow this game's going to be.
Yeah, I just don't believe like Villanova is that good. I know someone said it in the chat the other day that they're like 25th in Ken Palm.
Yeah.
I just don't get. I mean, I was at
I agree that they're not that good. It's just the math, doesn't.
Yeah. Well, because they were 2.5-point favorites at Marquette, and now they're 11.5-point dogs to UConn. I don't know if I believe that. It probably Nova or no action there.
Yeah, agree.
For me. Now, I think what's interesting about the way the lines are set up and then building out projections for this game is that when you open the pricing for this, the two ones that jump out immediately are 5.2K solo ball and 4.9K Bryce Lindsey.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally think in any other spot, these guys would be mega chalk. And I just think I'm not going to be able to play these guys because the only way they get there is on scoring. And at least in terms of like the way I play, I'm just not pumped about playing guys at a low price because their share of the offense is dwindling, whose entire production is reliant on the share going their way. Like, is it possible that Bryce Lindsey puts up 25 here and Solo Ball puts up 28 in terms of fantasy points? 100%. But if they're owned just because of the price, I just don't want to do it in a 72-60 projected total. It's just not exciting to me.
If you had to pick one, I think it's Solo Ball here just at home. I think there's a better chance that it's UConn that has the outlier scoring game than Villanova does here.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I think it kind of relates directly to what we were saying about the game, where it's like if there's a team I'm betting on half court sets in, it's UConn every single day of the week. And I don't know, Villanova with probably Demery on Lewis. I'm just not like the only way that Lindsey is going to be able to get there is that Lewis is like feeding him good shots, or he just has like a ridiculous shot making game. I'm at 19.2 on him, so a little bit over, and I think I'm at 21.5 for Solo Ball again because they're just not peripheral guys. And I mean, I don't think the kind of just speeding through here, but I don't think the other guys are just so priced up in this total that I 0%.
I'm kind of selfishly hoping that this is like a low-scoring UConn blowout because UConn plays Providence on Tuesday, and they're going to have like a 90 team total there. And I'm hoping that like we get Terrace Reed back down to 9K, we get Demery, down in this high 6K range, stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm selfishly hoping for is that no one in this game is optimal. Possibly betting Nova plus the points, but have not pulled the trigger yet. All right, let's keep it moving. We got 3 games left. Georgetown to Providence. We mentioned some Georgetown guys earlier. I think this is a really interesting game to get right here, Pip. What do we got on Ken Palm? Georgetown 101st at Ken Palm. Providence 64th. Providence 87.80. So I think this is the highest total that we've seen so far here on the slate, if I'm not mistaken. Talk to us about Georgetown Providence here.
Yeah, crazy total, condensed rotation. I think the story of this game from a DraftKings perspective is that Providence is off the ridiculous Marquette game that I'm still upset about. They went to OT, that both teams went over 100, and they're insanely priced up because of that. And I think the opposite is true for Georgetown, where these guys are all way underpriced. So yeah, sorry, am I frozen?
Your picture is, but your audio is fine.
Okay, I'll figure that out in a sec. So yeah, I don't have any like game thoughts here. It's kind of like another Big East game between two not good teams that are probably going to play pretty fast.
Yep.
DraftKings. I know we got 3 games here in 15 minutes, so I guess kind of just like going through the DraftKings thoughts. Favorite prop of the day. I don't know what's the update on the Jason Edwards situation.
Barrick posted in chat while we were live that he's out.
He's out. Perfect. Okay. Best prop on the board today, Jalen Sellers 13.5. I don't know how they will score 84 points if Jalen Sellers does not go over 13.5. I have him at 20, and I'm right at the team total. I mean, the only guys here on this team that score are Jones, Sellers, and Vox. And there's no prop posted for Vox. And I'm even over on Jameer Jones. So I'm locking and loading 13.5. I'll take any number on Jalen Sellers.
So a lot of guys in the Discord like to do the ladders. This is a great ladder bet.
Yes. Right. 20 plus. I mean, I've got Mean at 20 here. I think he's going to chuck. I mean, they're at
84.26. So yeah.
Let me look up actually.
Let's fire that in right now.
Ladder pricing is on Jalen Sellers here. I don't know. I saw that line. I'm like, is Jason Edwards playing or
it's pulled on 365. Hopefully they still have it up. Some places we can grab it.
Okay. Oh wow, the line's already up to 15.5. I still like
there's no props on FanDuel. Fuck.
All right. It happens fast. I haven't even I'll put it in like a pick six or something. But yeah. You're probably not playing any of the Providence guys in DraftKings. The only one that I could see playing is maybe Ryan Mila, but it's kind of thin. Love the player, and his game style really coincides well here with just he can rack up peripherals like crazy in a game. I could just see him getting 3 steals and like 14 rebounds and assists here. But you're just banking on Kim English.
Sorry to cut you off. I'm going to post the over 15.5 points anyways. I think it's still good.
I totally agree. Providence, or other than Mila, Providence side, not too interested in. Obviously love the Sellers over, but I've got him at 30 DK. 30 DK at 8.2K is not going to do much for you on this slate with how much value there is. Georgetown guys, much different story. Malik Mack, Stonelock, probably highest point per dollar play on the slate. Not going to show up without him at 25.4 at 5.1K. You're getting a huge discount here, as Ice Hoyle will probably tell you, off a terrible shooting performance. Just love him here. A lot of ways he can get there. KJ Lewis, really good GPP play. Caleb, the top 5 price guys between Lewis, Williams, Iwachukwu, and Halifanoa, or however you say it, all really playable. Probably not on a main for the other 4 guys other than Mac. KJ Lewis may be on a main, but Williams, Iwachukwu, and Halifanoa, I think are just amazing GPP plays. They're in that range that's going to have a lot of chalk in it. And I just think in this total, if things break their way, if Iwachukwu fouls twice quickly, Halifanoa at that price in this game environment is going to absolutely destroy the slate.
Yeah, I do think for guys who play multiple lineups, I would make a rule to not have Iwachukwu and Halifanoa in the same lineup, because I think you're playing them both kind of hoping that one fouls and the other plays 28 minutes here. When I saw that price on Halifanoa, I was like, what the hell?
Insane. He was 7K earlier this year.
Yeah, when Iwachukwu was out. So they're going to there's basically 38 to 40 minutes. There's some that they don't play, one of them. But yeah, if one of those 2 guys fouls, the other guy is going to probably be on the optimal in the flagship. I agree with what you said on Mac. Kind of hoping that his bad game last time, the box score clickers are kind of tepid to play him here. I'm definitely playing Mac. I think KJ Lewis, I'm pissed that you stole my big pivot take. I think KJ Lewis over Mast is what I wrote down last night. I was going through. It doesn't usually feel great to play 2 Georgetown guys, but this is the game to do that with. Providence is going to pace everyone up, especially the way they're playing right now. Everything is just wide open. They're turning the ball over too. Pep, you were talking about steals. Chase Ross had 7 of them against this Providence team that hurt both of us massively. But this team is going to play fast, and they're loose with the ball. KJ Lewis is the steal guy on this team. So really, really like that call. Corey Floyd projects well here. More of a floor guy. If you're at that range, I don't mind him, but not a priority play for me. Any last words here?
Last quick thing, KJ Lewis over 14.5 points. I've got it at 15.6. Just kind of another thing where I just don't know how they put up 80 plus here if KJ Lewis doesn't go over 14.5.
Right. All right, let's go to the last 2 games. We've got South Carolina at Texas A&M. Scars 72nd at KenPom, Texas A&M up to 38th. VIP, our coordinator in the chat, the Fighting A&M VIPs. KenPom's got at A&M 8173 here, so good team total on the A&M side, but massive rotation. They are up to 15th nationally in bench minutes. What are your thoughts here, DFS wise?
Yeah, no real thoughts. It's just like, I know people were saying Texas A&M is overrated. Very well could be true. South Carolina, also terrible basketball team. Texas A&M, we could probably spend an hour alone talking about figuring out the rotation. I mean, it's a good total. I can't do it to myself. Ruben Dominguez, maybe. I'm lower on his projection than you guys are. I think I'm around like 17.5. I'm just not going to consider, again, 10-game slate. Like, I don't have to figure it out here because there are so many good plays. South Carolina, same thing. Everyone's priced up. Played Michi last slate and got really lucky with like 8 free throws in the last minute.
What a run out at the end of that game. I was tilting, but I knew that you had him.
we'll take that. And I think I told everyone to bet the over, so we'll take that. But like 8.1K, no thanks. The only one play I can say here that's remotely interesting is Kobe Knox. I know someone, shout out the person who ever called it out in the Discord.
Yeah, no, they were right. Yeah.
They were 100% spot on. I've got him at 24 here, actually. He's going to play a ton of minutes. If you believe the new role is sticky, 6.3K Kobe Knox, it sounds insane to say out loud, is not the worst thing in this game environment. So no Texas A&M for me. Again, AG I think is like a 37 projection for me, but probably not going to run him over any of the other studs.
Yeah, I think the only A&M guy I would have some interest in if I was playing a bunch of lineups would be Dominguez. He seems to have the best non-AG role, and he's at that 5K. And like they have an 81 team total. I could, in his range of outcomes, is hitting like 5 or 6 threes. So I think he's okay if you're playing a bunch of teams, but we're never playing anyone on A&M on a main. I'm with you there. Good game to have as a setup to the last one, which we're going to have to spend some time on. Georgia at Texas is the last game here. Georgia 27th at KenPom, Texas 41st. Texas has had an interesting, 2 weeks? Like, they beat Bam on the road, they beat Vandy at home, and then they dropped the home game to A&M last weekend. But this game here, Pip has a monster total. Texas 86-85 is what KenPom's got. Georgia's been pretty frustrating all season, so this is going to be super important. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is the biggest game of the day for fantasy. This is a lot of fun, one to talk about here. 2 things I think are of huge note here. We talk about totals all the time, which is obviously where points, like the main driver of fantasy points is raw points. But you have to think about the other stuff that's going to happen in the game that's going to generate fantasy points. And I think what's distinct about this spot is 2 things. On the Georgia side, I have Georgia projected for the least amount of steals of any team on the slate. I've got them at like 5.3, which is right next to Georgia Tech and Mississippi State, who are at 5.3 and 5.2. So it makes me a little bit weary on the Georgia guys who are going to be chalk. Because, like, again, they can score 83, but if they score 77 or 75 and don't get steals, a lot of these guys are going to bust. With that being said, I am showing up with Jeremiah Wilkinson. I mean, 5.7K in this total is insane. But it's also like another bear case for the Georgia guys is I think 83 has got to be like the lowest total they've had in SEC play, or at least close to it. So that kind of, I mean, obviously 83 is good, but it's not the warm and fuzzies. I think that the analysis I'm giving is kind of more going to affect Kane and Samto. Like, you can play him. I think the projections are right on the Georgia guys in general. I'm probably 3 points lower on Wilkinson, but that doesn't really change my outlook on just jamming him in as much as possible. But like, if you get Kane and Samto in a run, I don't feel bad about playing them, but I'm also not going to boost them because of the game environment, because I think there's a lot of bear signals here. On the Texas side, probably the most fun team on the slate, I think. The note here, projections-wise, is not only do they have an 86 team totals, I have them projected for the most amount of rebounds at 39. Probably second favorite prop after sellers of the day is Matas PRA over 23.5. Barring foul trouble.
You have to avoid the fouls, man.
Got to avoid the fouls, but I have over on his points and rebounds. If you believe it's a great point spot and you believe it's a great rebound spot, like, that's just Matas over and over. I think I'm not going to probably get to Matas or Swain on a main, but probably the 2 best GPP MME plays. I think Jordan Pope is probably lock and load. Everyone's probably getting Jordan Pope. I don't blame you. Tremont Mark, again, another thing where, like, lock and load. Like, I think he's a great GPP play. I also like the Swain over 17.5. I have him at 18.9. So I think Texas is really fun, and I'm a bit bearish on the Georgia guys generally.
Yeah, Georgia #1 tempo in the entire country now.
Wow.
So this game's gonna be up and down. Swain. So on our site, I usually give like my favorite contrarian / just tourney faves. Already have Dalen Swain on that list. I think he's one of the best just overall plays on the slate that's not going to be super popular. Like, Texas is live to score 100 points here. Dalen Swain can 50 ball in this spot.
Easy.
So really like Swain. He's going to get squeezed. Matas, like you said, he's going to crush if he can avoid fouls. I just pulled up his foul stuff. 5.4 per 40 this year. He was 6.2 last year. 5.7 in Tier A games. They played 8 Tier A games this year. He was 9.5 in Tier A games last year. So improvement. The other thing is he draws a ton of fouls. 9.7 fouls drawn per 40 is #1 in the entire country. We saw it in, was it the Kentucky game, the Vandy game? Oh, no. Yeah, it was the Vandy game. He basically fouled out the entire Vandy front line, and that's why they controlled that game. So that gives me a little bit of pause on guys like Somto, but I agree with pretty much everything you said. You're going to want pieces here. Wilkinson, the best play. Pope, second best. I think Swain, third. Blue Cane has burned a lot of people because he always projects well because he smashed non-con. We've kind of seen him give up some usage to Wilkinson lately, but Kane can definitely get there at 6,400. I think he's a really good, probably decently contrarian play here. We don't get many guys who project for 4.5x that just aren't going to be super owned. I think people are going to be skittish to play Kane. I mean, I am. I'm sure you are too.
Ish. I mean, I think he's actually going to be somewhat owned. I've got 22% in my top 50 optimals. I guess for reference, like I've got Matas at like 32%. I think what you've got me thinking about is we were talking about earlier, like these value plays, right? Like 4K and below.
Yeah.
If you do like those guys, I would just be playing Boozer and Swain and just jamming them in. Like,
So
if you do have a read on the situation and say, I think Caden Boozer or Caleb Foster is going to play 30 minutes, please, by all means, jam them with Swain and Boozer. And like, you will have a good shot of winning if they put up 20.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about earlier. Like, if you wanted the double stud build, those are the guys you're going to take swings on.
Yeah.
Any last words on this? And then we'll kind of recap the slate quickly and then get on out of here.
No, I think that's about it. Good game. Excited for that game.
Yeah, it's the last one on the slate too. Are we waiting on any news on the slate? I don't really think so. There's always some random stuff that happens on Saturdays. We have it's flu season, so there could be some shit with that.
Mm-hmm.
But like Scylla's expected back.
That's news worth looking for. We'll be in the Discord talking about that. If he's like starting and we get like a really positive pregame report, I'm like full go. I'm gonna think about it.
I don't have anything else outstanding. So be in the Discord though, because stuff will pop up. I will be in there all day. You want to give just like a quick recap of your thoughts on the slate and your prop bets?
Yeah, play of the day was Dylan Hunter. Like him here, especially if he's going to come into no ownership. I think my core would be pretty easily Malik Mack, Jeremiah Wilkinson, Cameron Boozer. I think that's kind of like lock and load for me. General slate thoughts is like, you just need to decide what you think of the 4.5K to 5.5K range. Pick a few guys you like. If you don't like them and think they're going to be chalk, like the Godfreys, the Dallin Halls, the Jordan Popes, Malik Macks. Rightfully so. If you don't like that range, if you have a read on that range that you think is going to produce some edge, there are sub 4K plays to get you in a completely different roster build. Now, I just jam my own optimal. So I'm going to be playing the mid range, admittedly, like the 4.8K to 5.5K range. But you just kind of have to make a decision on that. Favorite props were the Malik Thomas over 13.5 or 14.5, Sellers over 15.5. And then the Matas over 23.5 PRA. I'll put a screenshot of all the ones that I wrote down for this and my projection for each in the chat. But yeah, that's my general thoughts.
I agree with all those. I'll add a couple of sides here. I took Liberty minus 14.5, Richmond plus 9.5, Colorado minus 1.5, Purdue minus 2.5, and Bama minus 3.5. I really like that Bama number at home against Tennessee. It should be a fun slate. I like these slates where there's a lot of guys in play, especially on weekends, where not everyone's going to show up with the same 6 guys in the queue. So good luck to everyone except for in the queue. Gavin will be back next Saturday. Thanks for coming and doing the show today, Pip. We'll see everyone in the Discord. If you want to join us again, go to runpuresports.com. Use code Steve15 for 15% off. I think the college basketball channel is the best one that we have in the Discord. I would not be playing college hoops DFS without being in that channel. We've got a UFC show coming up. I think they're just about to start here. JSU's hosting that for the pay-per-view tonight. UFC back after a long time off. Are you a UFC guy at all?
No, I think we'll just be full on college basketball. Nothing else.
I will be going out later. It actually helps that they moved all these games up because there aren't that many games later on tonight. So I'll have an eye on everything. If you want to check out the UFC show, it's right here on the Run Pure Sports channel. Big card. I know JBC is out there in Vegas, going to be there in person. So we will see you guys next Saturday. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Till next time, that's Pip. I'm Steve Boyden. See ya.